Notre Dame had its first spring practice this past Thursday, and from that, we have plenty of news and notes to discuss. So we're bringing on Blue and Gold's Tyler Horka to break down the biggest news and notes from the day. Before we dive into it, folks, please hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content. Of course, go over to blueandgold.com for much more on these news items and other Fighting Irish football and recruiting nuggets. So we're going to start with a position change, Tyler. I mean, Notre Dame's running back room is so log jammed. Devin Ford was the one where it was like, man, for his final year of eligibility, you would think he would either, I don't know, sit the bench or transfer out. Here was another a move for him that was notable, moving to safety, and you got to think he's going to be a big time special teamer. So, Horka, your reaction to this news, and what did Marcus Freeman have to say about it?
Yeah, I don't think the transfer word is demeaning, by the way, Mike, when you talk about where guys are in the pecking order these days. Like it's just a rite of passage in college football. If you're like he was last year, the number 5 running back in a very stacked Notre Dame running back room. Remember when they called it that like 5-headed monster? Ford was a part of that, but he was very clearly number 5. And it was interesting to me, if he was going to do the same thing this year, he might be number 6 because Notre Dame has 2 really talented guys who just came in the class of 2024, and Aeneas Williams and Kedron Young. Kedron Young already on campus looking good. He was getting some carries in that practice that we saw the other day. Devin Ford was thinking, what am I doing here? So he had that conversation, that tough conversation with the Notre Dame coaching staff. You mentioned Marcus Freeman, and Marcus basically told him, look, you are one of our most important special teams players. I believe Ford logged 103 special team snaps last year. A lot of those are on the coverage team. So kick coverage, punt coverage. What are those guys doing? They're running down and trying to go tackle people. You're not tackling anybody as a running back. But if you move to safety, which is a spot that Notre Dame needs some experience, needs some depth, just needs older players in the room, you're going to be working on form tackling a bunch in these spring practices and then in fall camp. Is he ever going to see the field as a safety? Probably not. That's what Notre Dame has Xavier Watts for, Rod Hurd. I think Adon Schuler is going to take the next step. There's some guys in that room. We're about to talk about one here in a minute. That's probably going to get some playing time, but the move makes sense for Notre Dame. It makes sense for Devin Ford, and it's good to still have him on the team because, like I said, he could have easily transferred out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you're Devin Ford, I doubt this video will reach him. But Devin, like I feel like you should have your head up, like and chin up, because dude, if you ball out on special teams, maybe you do find a role on the field. You still could be looking at an NFL career. Like those, like excuse my French, those badass special teams players. Like if you really do stand out there, you can go play in the NFL and be a mainstay in the league. So yeah, keep your head up, Luke Talich. It didn't work out at running back, but you still got a career ahead of you, in my opinion, especially if you have a really strong special teams season. So Luke Talich, you kind of hinted at him. This was someone when I was about to say signed, but I guess a walk-on doesn't really sign. But when he got to Notre Dame, he had Power 5 offers, Oregon State, Washington State, and it was one that was like, man, Notre Dame landed him as a preferred walk-on. You think he's going to get on scholarship, and he did, and that was announced by Marcus Freeman this past Thursday.
Yeah, you see it right there. 6'4", 210. So he's got that freaky size. He looks like a safety, the kind of guy that you want roaming the back end. And when I wrote about this, I said, for all Xavier Watts did, we got to remember that he's 6 foot and he's just in the right spots at the right time. Luke Talich, he could kind of break the mold and be like, he's not Kyle Hamilton because there's only one Kyle Hamilton. Kyle Hamilton's in a little bit of unicorn, but Kyle Hamilton is also 6'4" and does some of those like freaky athletic things on the back end that you're looking for in a safety. And I think that's why the conversation was like this with Talich ever since the beginning. Like you said, when he came in here from Wyoming was, okay, when is this guy going to be placed on scholarship? It was never if, it was when. Yeah. And I mentioned a little bit earlier, the Notre Dame safety group, I mean, they're bringing in Rod Hurd II, who's, by the way, on campus, but technically still enrolled for online classes at Northwestern. So he can't participate in practices. We saw a lot of Talich in that first practice the other day because of that, playing a little bit with the second team, honestly. So we're going to see him when the season rolls around in the fall, I think we see this kid on the field, and he's earned his scholarship. And Notre Dame's gonna have a useful player in him for the next couple of seasons for sure.
So some really interesting stuff here is how Notre Dame is managing its two-sport athletes. Now, Tyler, when kids are being recruited, so oftentimes they would like to play two sports, and it's just like, yeah, that's not probably gonna happen, especially when it's football, basketball. But with these spring sport guys, it's much more possible. We have Drake Bowen. I mean, he did this a little bit last season as an early enrollee, I believe, playing
Mhm.
some baseball. And you also have, of course, have Jordan Faison, the rising sophomore, who is shining on the lacrosse field. Now, of course, he didn't get to play any lacrosse last season because he was still enrolled in high school. He didn't get to do the early enrollee route, but he's balling in lacrosse. So, he was kind of just in street clothes when he was stretching on Thursday. And then Bowen, with him being, you cover baseball first, Tyler, so you can correct me, but more of a pinch runner and and reserve player. So I just kind of set the stage there. Your takes on Drake Bowden, Jordan Faison as two sport athletes, and what Marcus Freeman had to say about it.
Yeah, kind of two completely different approaches, and you kind of alluded to this. Face On is all in on lacrosse, and Marcus Freeman said that. Kevin Corrigan is obviously trying to go back to back with this Notre Dame lacrosse program. He's been the head coach here for over 3 decades, and it took him, I think, 34, 35 years to win that first national championship. They've got a good enough team to win it again, and Faison is a part of that. The dude has 10 goals in his first 5 collegiate lacrosse games. It's pretty incredible. So that's where he's going to be. If there's a lacrosse practice or there's an overlap with football practice, Faison's going to be with the lacrosse guys because he is a part of that team. We have to remember that was his number one sport coming into Notre Dame. It was, hey, this is a really good lacrosse recruit, and he's going to play lacrosse for Notre Dame. Maybe he could play a little bit of football too. It's worked out that way. He's going to play a lot of football for Notre Dame, but in this springtime, it's lacrosse season. Let's be honest. And in the rare case, usually springtime, March, April at Notre Dame, spring football is important. It's the number one thing going on for a lot of people, but just not for Jordan Faison because he is a big part of that lacrosse team. But then on the flip side of that, like you said, with Drake Bowen, he's a great baseball player. Don't get me wrong. He's probably a better football player, and he might be a starting linebacker for this Notre Dame football team in 2024. So that's where he wants to spend most of his time, most of his attention. Max Bola needs to develop this guy throughout the spring, into the summer, and then into the fall. So you'll see him suit up with the baseball team. Like you said, Mike, he scored a run as a pinch runner
Yeah.
not long ago, but it's not going to be a Jordan Faison thing where you see Drake Bowden starting 3 baseball games a weekend, getting 15 at bats a weekend. That's not going to happen because he is on that football practice field most of the time.
Tyler, about 60 seconds on Notre Dame players who will not partake in spring practices. Can you just give me a quick rundown of each of these 5 guys?
Yeah, very much expected. Obviously, Kevin Bauman tore his ACL last August, so there's the rehab there. Mitchell Evans tore his ACL in, I want to say, October, so it's going to take
Yep.
even a little longer for him to get back. Aiden Gobira was also a fall camp ACL tear, so he's kind of on that same trajectory as Bauman. And then Armel Mukum and Logan Thomas, a couple of younger guys there on the defensive line. They both had shoulder surgeries, different timelines, I believe. Either I think it was Mukum who had his a little earlier on, and maybe it was Thomas in the last month or so, or vice versa. But the same holds true for both of them. Because of those shoulder surgeries, they will not be participating in spring practices.
Okay, folks, please hit the thumbs up on this YouTube video. Of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content. Go to blueandgold.com for much more on these new items and other Fighting Irish recruiting and football headlines. So appreciate you folks for watching. And as always, we will catch you next time.